are we ready? 5,
4,
3,
3, 2, 1, let's go!
Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you may have all been seeing recently, I just got back from a holiday to Mallorca. Went for 10 days, and as like part of my channel, I documented a bunch of like new things I'd never done before and kind of what we got up to while we were there. And yeah, as promised, I have all the footage. Unfortunately, as I don't have like a GoPro set up yet, or kind of a fancy sort of camera set up and a cameraman, which would actually be really nice, but I don't have any of that, so everything was done with my phone, and I got like what I could from all the challenges and quests we did while we were out there. So I'm going to show you all that stuff today. The holiday was absolutely amazing. It's probably been one of the most action-packed holidays I've done, especially somewhere like Spain. Usually it's like chilling around a pool, kind of just hanging out in the sunshine and relaxing, kicking back a little bit. But this time I kind of booked a bunch of excursions. We hired a bike, and I kind of did as much as I could while we were there, despite the incredible heat we had. Obviously Spain's pretty hot this time of year anyway, but it was a lot hotter than I think we expected it was going to be for June. But yeah, so let's get into it and I'll show you some of the stuff I got up to. So one of the first kind of major trips we did when we were there is to hire a motorbike. So we got I think it was an NX 500. And as I've only just passed my CBT, I couldn't ride yet. I was hoping to maybe hire a scooter myself, like Twist and Go. But sadly, the licensing is a bit different in Spain, so you need a full motorbike license to get on a scooter as well. So I couldn't do that. So we hired one bike, and I jumped on the back, and Ed drove us. And we ended up going through. So we were in Alcudia, which is on the right side of the island, sort of top right. And we ended up going to a lovely little village called Valdemossa, which was all the way through the northern mountains of Mallorca. And it ended up being a 200-kilometer or 125 miles ish round trip, literally on a sort of single track. Well, not single track. It was like two cars width road, but just one winding road all the way through the mountains. And we stopped at some like little cafes and stuff nestled up in the mountainsides, and like stopped in some little places to get some nice footage, which I'll show you soon, the sort of photos and clips we took. Sadly, I couldn't get any sort of on the bike clips because the little thing on the back of my phone that I can hold my phone up with is a little bit precarious and it comes off sometimes, so I didn't want to hold my phone up while we were traveling along in case I lost it. But I got as many clips as I could when we sort of stopped off in places and took some photos and stuff. So that trip for us was, to be honest, I'm pretty impressed for both of us. So Ed has never ridden a bike or driven a car in another country before, where there's like you're on the other side of the road from the UK. So, and he's obviously never ridden that particular bike before, and he carried me on the back as a passenger, and I've sat on a bike 3 times before we went on that. So yeah, like what an experience that was. You know, we both got on, and we were out for about 12 hours. So it was a long day. It was about 34, 35 degrees that day as well. And so a couple of things. I decided I adamantly wanted to wear full bike gear, which obviously you should gear up to get on a bike, like armored jackets and everything. But we noticed that everyone in Mallorca were just riding their bikes. Oh, hello, Jax. Can I move this, please? Thank you. It was so hot that everyone on their bikes was just in t-shirt and shorts. Even on like bigger bikes, not just the scooters. But I was too chicken to do that, and was pretty set on wearing full gear. So I hired a armored jacket from the place we got the bike. Ed decided to do just his t-shirt and shorts. He braved it because of how warm it was. But yeah, I wore jeans and everything. And so we got all the way to Valdemossa. We did a couple of little stops. I'll show them one of the little cafes we stopped at, really high up in the mountains, was beautiful. And then we headed along to Valdemossa. But by this point, my jacket was soaked through. I sweat so much, and it was so warm that I completely sweat through all my clothes. And there was kind of a moment when we were looking around Valdemossa that I was like, I was actually starting to feel a bit ill. It was fairly stressful. Like, I had so much fun, but it was fairly stressful being on the back of a bike, a bigger bike, for the first time in my life. And we were going around lots of little winding tracks. I'm not particularly great with heights. And so there was a lot of like very steep cliff faces down the mountains that I had some, let's say, squeaky bum moments with, and had to look the other way and just cling on for dear life. So yeah, it was quite a thing for me to be sort of sitting on the back and going that kind of distance. But we got to Valdemossa, and the combination of the slight like adrenaline and stress and all the gear, I just completely overheated, and we left the jacket in the back box of the motorbike. By the time we got back to it, everything was just roasting hot. The bike seat was incredibly hot. You could barely touch it, and my jacket had been heating up in the back box. So I managed to get all my gear back on, and we decided to take a little trip to a tiny like port near Valdemossa. And as we were heading down there, we kind of realized there was not much shade. There was a little restaurant that luckily we could stop and sit in to get some drinks and cool down a bit. But by this point, my helmet was pressing into my head. I just was like quite overwhelmed, and the little track down to this port was incredibly steep. Like, there was maybe like a tiny little sort of 2-foot wall on the outside edge of the road, but you could look straight down, and it was a sheer drop for quite a distance. That is so steep, man. I got to the point where I had a panic attack on the back of the bike, and I was like patting Ed on the side to say like, I'm freaking out back here. And he kind of heard me, so he slowed down a bit, and he was taking it nice and easy and everything. But I don't think he realised how much I was freaking out, so I started crying on the back of the bike, trying to hold it together. Like, the combination of the heat, the sheer drop, and the feeling of all my like wet clothes on me, everything got too much. It was a bit like sensory overload, and I had a freak out moment. So yeah, I clung on. We got down to the bottom and stopped there for a bit to kind of just cool down, have some drinks, and for me to sort of, yeah, like calm down a bit, because I was like struggling at this point, and I knew we still had quite a long trip to go back. And I realised I had got so hot and had started feeling so ill from it that there was no way I was going to be getting that jacket back on to survive the journey home. So I decided to brave it a little bit, and I'm not encouraging not wearing gear, because I think you should wear gear all the time. But I kind of figured it's either I'm going to wear no gear and risk coming off if we do come off, and that's going to be really awful, or I'm going to get so hot that I'm going to pass out on the back and fall off anyway, and not make it home. So I decided to take my jacket off for the rest of the journey and get some cool breeze and survive. So we did that, and actually the rest of the journey was really pleasant. There's some clips coming up of some of the like absolutely beautiful places we stopped. It looked like something out of Jurassic Park, honestly. It was like at any moment I was expecting some, is it a pterodactyl, big winged ones, to like just come flying across the tops of the mountains. It was so epic. And that's where I fell over. Unfortunately, this is where I would have loved to have had a GoPro, because some of the places we went through, unfortunately, we couldn't stop because the road was quite narrow. We had no, unless there was a lay-by, there wasn't really anywhere to like pull in and get off and get some footage. But the scenery through that place was, it was so epic. I'm going to go back there. I have to go back there with a GoPro next time, or like a chest mounted camera or something, so I can actually go and capture how gorgeous it was. And one of the amazing things about it actually was, I couldn't believe how smooth the road was. It was like it had been freshly laid. There was no potholes, there was no rocks or mud or gravel or anything around the whole road. So if you are a motorbike rider, and you want a nice trail to go and do, that one I would highly recommend, through the northern mountains. So yeah, basically we it was almost getting to sunset by the time we got home and had done this full round trip, and my butt hurt, my feet really hurt on the back pegs of the bike, like perched up on the back pegs of the bike, and my quads. I can't believe how much kind of a workout it is in your quads when you're a passenger on the back, and the pegs are quite high, so your legs are bent quite a lot, and you're bracing for every time the bike slows down or changes gear, and you're having to kind of brace yourself against that. But yeah, so got back. I was incredibly dehydrated. I actually had like salt lines through my t-shirt, because of how much I'd sweat, and I ended up incredibly dehydrated the next day. So I had to go to the pharmacy and get these like rehydration drink things. But yeah, overall the day was incredible. It felt like something to be proud of at the end, and it's like one of those things that I'm going to probably remember it forever. It felt like a proper adventure, getting on a bike and going somewhere like that, especially as like a kind of noob to the whole experience. And Ed was awesome, looked after me the whole way, kept us safe. Road amazing considering it was on the other side of the road. Just took to it really quick, figured it out straight away. And I know he had a bit of fun as well. Like apparently a couple of times he did speed up a little bit on the fast roads, even though I was like patting him every time I was freaking out. Felt like I was being probably quite a bad passenger, but I was trying to sit nice and neat. But yeah, he was great. And a trip I will never forget. So that was a side quest completed, and I want to do them a lot more. I think we're probably going to go back maybe next year, and if I've got my proper bike license by then, go and ride our own bikes, like separately, through that trail. So yeah, that was great. I loved every bit of that, apart from when I cried, but that's what it's all about, isn't it? So like pushing yourself out your comfort zone. Then yeah, after that we went to the next big the next sort of excursion we did was getting on a speedboat to go out and watch dolphins out in sort of Alcudia Bay. And not as scary, certainly not as scary as the bike trip, but something I've never done before. I've never seen dolphins in the wild before, out in the sea, and I've never been on a speedboat as far as I can remember. No, never been on a speedboat. So yeah, we got there really early in the morning so we could catch the sunrise, and they played music on the boat as we were like kind of pulling out of the port bit. And we got a bit of Enya, got some Phil Collins. It was absolutely magical. Now, I am quite a emotional person, sort of. I'm pretty laid back most of the time, but like little moments like that when the sun's rising, the music's playing, I like teared up a little bit, got a bit kind of choked up of how like beautiful and magical it all was. So yeah, we like pulled out of there. We went about half an hour out into the open sea as the sun came up, and then joined a bunch of other boats already waiting out there. And yeah, just as the sun started rising and just sort of creeping above the horizon, you started to see sort of the dolphin fins kind of popping up over the water, and we'll put some clips in there to show the footage of that. And yeah, for about half an hour, we sort of slowly went alongside them as they were just sort of playing and swimming around the boat. I tried not to film too much because it's one of those things where you want to experience it in person as well, and not just sort of watch the whole thing through your phone screen. So but yeah, I caught some nice bits of the dolphins sort of popping out. There was moments where they were like slapping the water with their tails and sort of being a bit more playful. Yeah, so we were with them for about half an hour. Then we turned round and headed back towards some of the like coves round near Alcudia Bay. And we went into some of the little areas where you could kind of go slightly underneath and see the kind of rock formations underneath. If anyone watching this is a geologist, I'm assuming it would be, and has kind of knowledge on how the rocks form in this way, there was a particular one we went in, I'll show that now, which was just fascinating the way it was kind of formed. It was like in all these sort of swirly layers. Um, yeah, and then like it amazes me how it stays together. It almost looks brittle, like it's going to kind of fall apart. But yeah, so we went round into some of those, and then the captain of our speedboat decided to take us on a little bit of a faster faster trip back into Alcudia Bay, and we started doing some whatever the boat equivalent of wheelies is. So like little figures of eight and circles at quite high speed. So we were like bobbing up and down and sort of spinning around in the water, and that was really, really fun. It makes me want a boat so bad. I love being out on the sea. I get like a little sense of maybe I was meant to be a pirate or something. But yeah, it was really, really epic. And then we sort of sped back into Alcudia Bay to go back to the port. So yeah, that was that day. So that was two things I've never done before. I did go out once on a catamaran round Porto Palença, so the next kind of cove along from Alcudia, and that was actually one of the best trips I've ever done before in my life as well. It was so epic. It was a particularly windy day as well, and so we got really intense waves out on the sea, and that was awesome. But yeah, there's something about being out on a boat that I don't know. I really, really, really love it. And then what was next? So the following morning, Ed actually took the bike out again on his own, and I didn't go because I was so exhausted, and I kind of regret it now, but I was so exhausted from the bike trip, and then the the heat in general, and the dolphin trip, because we got to that for like 5:30 in the morning, and I was so exhausted I didn't go. But he took the bike up to a place called Fermentor, to go and see the lighthouse there. So I've added some photos of that. I know it's not me doing it, but I just wanted to add them because the place was really cool, and if you go there you should definitely go and check it out, and I really wish I had gone. So yeah, I've added those photos in as well. And then we took the bike back that day, and it was weird actually how, so I was quite nervous when I got on the bike for that longer trip we did, just because I hadn't done much riding, obviously. And then the day we took the bike back, I'll add a photo in from when we dropped it off, which I was actually quite sad about. I'd like kind of grown to really like this bike at this point. But it was amazing. I was saying to Ed how much more natural it felt sitting on the bike that morning to take it back, than when we first went out on that long day. And it was like all that time we spent on the bike on that day, it had kind of sunk in, and yeah, I just felt like I felt natural. Like I didn't feel like I needed to hold on to him. I felt comfortable. I felt like the movements of the bike felt more normal. And I just felt really relaxed. And I actually think, even though I was obviously a passenger, I feel like that has boosted my confidence for getting on my bike now, for the first time when I take my manual bike out, after my CBT, which will be sometime this week. I feel like, yeah, that long trip as a passenger has kind of helped me get way more comfortable with being on a bike. So yeah, that was good. And then the next excursion we went on was to a place called Rancho Grande. Maybe people watching this at some point, you may have even been there. But it's like a sort of Spanish ranch, fairly near to where we were staying. It was about a 25-minute bus, like coach journey to get there. And so we did a bunch of activities while I was there. Obviously, I've horse ridden for years, so this wasn't kind of like a really new experience for me. But it was Ed's probably third time of being on a horse, so that was really fun for him as well. And I encouraged him to go in the slightly more advanced group. So you could either go in the sangria cart and get drunk, basically, or you could go, there was like a group 1 which was just walking only, group 2 which was walking and trotting, and then group 3 which was walk, trot, canter, gallop. But I stayed on the second group with Ed, so we did some walk and trot, and I got a little bit of footage. I'm not sure they wanted you to get your phones out while you were walking around, just for like safety reasons, but I snuck my phone out and got some little clips while we were going, and they took some photos while we were there as well, so I've put those up. I was actually hoping while we were there, it said they had a mechanical bull, but we didn't see it, and I'm not sure if they still had it or if we just missed it. It didn't seem like anyone else was heading towards it either, but I've never been on one before, so I was really, really hoping to do that while we were there. It's just like a new experience, but they didn't have it, unfortunately. But we got to do, after dinner, we got to do some line dancing. I don't think I've really line danced before, so that was kind of a new experience. It was actually quite hard, to be honest, like moving quick enough, and it was so hot that even just like doing a few songs of line dancing was quite hard. But yeah, so I got to do that, and then they put on an amazing show, which was new actually, because I'd been to Rancho Grande like years and years and years ago, and they didn't do it then. But I'm going to add some clips just of the show they put on, because it was awesome. We had like a flamenco dancer, there was a guy doing like fire poi, and he did a lightsaber show, which was really cool. And there was a guy who came up with one of the like Andalusian horses and did like a little riding show for us, doing all the kind of dressage moves and things like that, and it was amazing.
Y arena, y despierta el tamboril que va metido en mis venas, y la gaita suena al alba que sabe a menta y canela, y ya los novillos nuevos se sacan.
So yeah, that was us for Rancho Grande. That was a really, really good day. The next thing we went to go and do, and it's just a small one, but I always wanted to have a go on one, was the like boxing bag machines things, where you take a big old swing at it and see how high a score you get from punching the bag that comes down. And I was quite impressed actually, because for the first swing on it, I got 677 points. And apparently for those machines, that falls into elite for a woman. So I'm well chuffed with that. It was really fun actually. It was quite scary because like everyone stops around you and watches. So I was like, thought, am I going to like swing at it and miss the bag or something? But luckily I didn't.
Hold on, I'm ready. Easy. That's pretty good. That was pretty good. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was hell yeah. There we go. Got a decent score, and then Ed did it after, and obviously, well, I'm assuming people probably don't know this yet because I don't know if I've mentioned it on this channel, but me and Ed met in a boxing gym, or like Muay Thai, kickboxing. So we last year, he had already done it for a couple of years, but I trained Muay Thai for probably 9 months, and like that's where we met, and so we couldn't really get bad scores now, could we? That would be a bit embarrassing. So I've added his one in after, and yeah, that was really fun. So we got to do that, and then so the final excursion we went to do. Well, Ed didn't end up doing it in the end because he was absolutely shattered. The whole holiday was very, very exhausting. With how hot it was and all the stuff we got up to. But I decided to go and do like a little kayaking excursion. And on the description in the app, it said you'd be going around like some of the caves, and yeah, so like kayaking, going around some of the caves, doing a cliff jump, and like having some lunch and bits like that. And it was also like a treasure hunting kind of little kind of mini game that ran alongside what we were doing. So you'd go and find some keys and then go and unlock the treasure at the end. Now I assumed, so I've been kayaking before, but I assumed the caves, when they said caves, it was going to be similar to the speedboat dolphin trip, where you were just in the kayaks and you'd like kind of paddle into like the little sort of open caves kind of thing, and you may go in, I don't know, sort of 5 meters, and the ceiling of it would be kind of over the top of you, and then you'd sit in there in the kayaks, maybe jump out and have a little paddle round and stuff like that. It wasn't that, and it was also one of probably my biggest fears, which is I mean, it wasn't this extreme. To me it was, but so when people go caving, right, or like potholing, and they go down through the little holes in the rocks and stuff and go actually properly underground where there's water and it's dark, that is by far my biggest fear in the world, more than heights, more than anything else. And one of those things that I would never have said I was going to do, ever. No desire to do it, no, certainly not the bravery to do it, and just not for me, right? But we got off the kayaks, so we climbed along kind of all the rocks, all the like rocky cliff edges to get down into the sea and to get on our kayaks. We went on the kayaks and paddled along to one of the beaches, and then turned around and raced back to their speedboat to win the first key for this treasure hunting. And yeah, after that we came back, we got off the kayaks and swam into this little sort of open roof kind of cave bit. So went under the rock, and then there was some like sort of rocks and stairs coming up out of it. And our guides got us all to sit on the rocks, and then started telling us like, right, where do you think we're getting in to this cave? So immediately my heart rate shoots up, and I'm like, maybe I made a mistake coming to this. And he pointed to a very small hole in the rocks and said, right, we're going in there. And everyone sort of started shuffling a little bit and looked around like, no, I don't think so. I don't think we can fit through there. And so then he was like, oh, no, it's fine. I'm joking. We're not going through there. He was like, but we're going to go through where I throw the bag. So he had like a waterproof bag with, I guess, like safety stuff they needed and things like that. So this sort of big yellow bag. And he picked it up and swung it, and it went down through another very, very small hole. And we were all sort of looking at each other like, no, he's got to be joking again, because it's not much different from the first one he pointed to. And maybe he's just going to reach down and grab this bag and then tell us where we're actually going. But no, it was in fact down through this small dark hole between the rocks, into a cave. And I was at the back of the group. And at this point, I genuinely decided, nope, I'm out. This is not for me. I know this channel's about doing side quests and taking on challenges and things like that, but this was one that I had no interest in ever doing. But the two guides we had with us got into the hole ahead of us all. So, and I was at the back, so I was like, I have no one to tell that I'm not coming in. And I don't know where to meet them. I don't know if they're going to come back out in the same place. I don't know if they're going to come out somewhere else along the coast, or I didn't know what was happening. So I was like, I've got nowhere to meet them. I don't know where to go. I'm going to have to follow them in. So I put my very big girl pants on and climbed down into this tiny dark hole in the rocks, into this little cave. They both had torches, the two guides, and they showed us that if they turned the torches off, it was pitch black. And we started out in this first room within the cave, and the water was up to your shins, like mid shins. And they were sort of telling us about like how the rocks formed and all this kind of stuff. And then we had to walk through like these little sort of passages, these little passages between the rocks to get into like the next room along. And as you went through, the water got deeper. And I am at this point just thinking, all I could think about was, if the water rises suddenly, that's it. I couldn't stop thinking about how humid it felt in there, how suffocating it was, how dark it was, how we was in a tiny hole with where water could come in at any point and just fill it up. That wasn't going to happen, obviously, but I'm really scared of this stuff. And then, then we carried on through and we went into the next room where the water rises up to your sort of midway point. And he was kind of one of the guides was pointing out how there was like plants up on the sort of, it wasn't very high, the top of the ceiling wasn't very high, but there was kind of plants up there inside, and like stalagmites and stalactites. And he kind of pointed out that the reason those plants were up on those bits of rock is because when the water does come in and fill it up, it takes all the plants through and leaves them there. So at this point, I'm like, I just need to get out of here as quick as possible. Like, it was beautiful and it was really interesting, but I was struggling, right? And then the next bit, to go through into the next kind of room in this little cave system, you again went through another little tight, dark passage. And by this point, the water was like, you couldn't touch the floor in parts of it. You were fully swimming. So I'm freaking out. I don't tell anyone because I'm like, what's it going to do? What's it going to do? But I'm freaking out. And then they start saying like, right, there's more keys to find in here to get to the treasure. So everyone starts like swimming around and looking, and I'm sort of having a look, but all I can think about is like, we are in the end of this trapped space under the rock. And I have no idea where the exit is unless it's to kind of retrace your steps and then climb back up out of that small hole. So yeah, people found the keys, and then it turns out the exit was literally just around the corner, but the way the kind of passages were, the light couldn't get in, so it was pitch black. But if you just kind of went around the corner in this little cave bit, you could swim out through a narrow passage back out and just straight back out into the sea. So yeah, as soon as I came out the other side, I was like, okay, I wasn't as trapped as I thought I was. And in a weird way, I almost wanted to go back in and explore it a little bit more, knowing that there was actually quite an easy exit and I didn't have to do any more climbing, because it was kind of a mix. It was a mix of small, dark caves, water, which I'm not like crazy afraid of water. I love swimming, but when it's in that situation, it's a bit freaky. And then it was also like heights, so it was like climbing up like wet, jagged rocks and stuff. So the whole thing was like a bit of a challenge for me. But yeah, if I'd known that it was that easy to get out, I almost wish I could have gone back in and just swam around in there and enjoyed it, because it was like a little mermaid's grotto kind of thing. It was really, really cool. Sadly, there's no photos or footage of walking through there, because the guides had GoPros, but you had to leave, obviously, because we were completely submerged in water. For big chunks of it, you couldn't take your phones or anything. So I had to sort of rely on the photos that the guides took. I'll see if I can find some of their own footage of that particular cave. But yeah, so we did that. We came out, and then they gave us all snorkels, and we climbed back up on the kind of cliff bit next to that, and did a cliff jump back into the water. Now, the photo that I'm going to put up makes it look not very high at all. I think it was probably about 15 feet, maybe 20 feet. I don't know if my fear is saying it was that high or if it actually was that high. It was high enough that when you jumped, you had a moment of like, oh my God, like that, I'm falling, right? The feeling in your stomach of like it turning over, because you have a moment of free falling. So it was high enough for that. And you had to balance on the edge of a really sort of jagged kind of sharp rock to lean over and do this jump. And maybe it's not that scary, maybe I'm just a big baby, but I feel like I achieved something. However, I forgot to hold my nose as I went in, so I took a ton of seawater straight up into my sinuses as I went under, which was kind of horrible, but I made it. I did the jump. And then they gave us some snorkels, and we got to kind of swim around for a bit. There was lots of fish. I saw a starfish on a rock, a big orange starfish. I think I saw some form of sea slug. He looked a bit rude. The shape was strange, but I think he was a slug. That was really cool, and it was huge as well. And then I saw there were lots of shells. I feel like there was another creature that I can't remember, but the starfish was really cool. But yeah, then we did that, and then we went to swim under and find the box of treasure we were looking for the keys that had been collected. And yeah, that was that day. We got back out and then took a little hike back to where all the trailers and stuff were, and then and then went home. So yeah, that day was two big challenges for me: the jumping off of a high place and climbing down into some rocks into the dark in the sea was probably my biggest challenge of all of them. But I did it. I did all of the challenges that I set out to do, and made it through as best I could, with some tears, lots of laughter, some injuries, and yeah, I'm like pretty proud of what we did while we were there. Really, really good trip. Yeah, and that was that. And it's kind of given me some ideas of what stuff I want to work on with like new challenges. So one of the things I noticed about the kayaking, and when we were sort of walking all along the rocks to get to this cave bit, I was just really impressed at how like sure the guides were. So they were just like walking along this rock that felt very like jagged and uneven under your feet and high up in places if you don't like heights. and it was just with such ease. Like they were climbing over bits that I looked at and I was like, that's like a sheer drop, and you've just climbed down there like it's nothing and just perched yourself on a little rock at the bottom. And I was just really impressed with how someone can kind of move about like that with no fear. Because I had jelly legs walking along the top of some of those, like looking down and thinking I'm going to trip, I'm going to fall over, and like, God, if you fell on this stuff, you would really like cut something open bad and probably needs like stitches. So I was just amazed at like how easy they made it all look, and that makes me want to get better at that stuff. So I'm thinking of maybe looking into doing some climbing, or definitely doing a lot more swimming, because I've always been a really strong swimmer, but I don't know if it's where I've just got kind of unfit or if I was just really tired from the rest of the trip. But even just kind of swimming around where we were on that place, I was absolutely exhausted and I was kind of fighting it. So yeah, it's given me kind of lots of ideas of what stuff I want to achieve next. I can't wait to get on my bike this week. And yeah, that's kind of the first main video of the channel. I'm going to be looking at getting some proper recording stuff soon, because obviously I had to do the whole thing on my phone, and it's I didn't kind of get as much video footage especially as I'd like to have done. But just because of the logistics of it, the fact that it was like water, and on the bike I couldn't really hold my phone up in the air because my case is a bit broken. I thought I was going to like lose my phone over a cliff. But yeah, so that's basically everything for that video, guys. Thanks for keeping up to date with my little shorts every day. I did miss one day on our journey back because I didn't feel very well. And the journey back was quite long. We had a long wait for our flight and everything. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I can't wait to kind of get some decent equipment and start filming all of this stuff properly for you all, because it's really fun. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Catch you later.